Hey guys, welcome back. Grant Cardone's mentor was convicted of fraud. And in this episode of today's Misguided Mentors, I'm going to talk about exactly what I mean by that. Welcome back, and thanks for making the time to check this out. In case you guys didn't know this, Grant Cardone is obviously a Scientologist. With that being said, the founder of Scientology himself, Ron Hubbard, was actually convicted of fraud in France in 1978, which is quite some time ago. And I think it's important for people to, one, know that, and two, question Grant Cardone's ethics, question what he does in his own organization, because if his own mentor, which, obviously, I think it's safe for me to say that Ron Hubbard is Grant Cardone's mentor, because not only is he a Scientologist, but he literally models and mimics the 10X organization directly like Scientology. And so I think it's very important for people to understand that Ron Hubbard was convicted of fraud. So what does that say about Grant Cardone? Someone who idolizes this guy, someone who pretty much adopted his thought process and incorporates Ron Hubbard's teachings into his own organization. Well, something to ask yourself, especially if you're someone who likes Grant Cardone, and more particularly if you're someone who buys things from Grant Cardone and you get in proximity with him and you go to his events. You got to pay attention to that. It's something to pay attention to is what I'm saying. So I'm going to get into this. I haven't actually dove into the facts or articles or anything related to Ron Hubbard's conviction of fraud back in 1978 when, there's a lot of stuff that was said. And so I just thought I'd share my screen as I do. And we'll look at it together. We'll take that journey together. And it's something to definitely pay attention to. I find it quite fascinating that someone like Grant Cardone, who's highly inspirational, obviously he's got a huge presence. I find it quite fascinating that nobody's brought this up yet. No one's brought up the fact that his mentor is convicted of fraud. The guy who he looks up to, the teachings that he looks up to, the teachings that he's adopted, that was all created from someone who was convicted of fraud. Not someone who was alleged of committing fraud, convicted of fraud, okay? Meaning it was a fact. It was found in the court of law. I know a lot of people like to get some proof, and what proof is there? What do you have? Where's the basis for these claims at? Well, the basis for the claims of Ron Hubbard being a fraud are there, and so we'll talk about that. We know that for a fact. The other fact is Grant Cardone actually looks up to Scientology because he is a Scientologist, so we know that fact as well. So something to pay attention to. We're going to start taking a deeper dive. What's up, guys? What's up, Brandon Bowski? Good to see you, brother. Yeah, man, I'm going to talk about something that nobody talks about, and that is the fact that Grant Cardone's mentor himself, Ron Hubbard, is a fraudster, convicted of fraud, fleeing the country to avoid his sentencing for being a fraud. So, Brandon, if you haven't followed the YouTube channel, man, I'd love to eventually get you on an interview too. But in the meantime, check it out, man. It's called Today's Misguided Mentors, and it's on YouTube. So would love to chat with you at some point, man. Get you on the podcast. And I can tell you're great for a conversation. So would love to make that happen. All right, let's jump into this, guys. And by the way, anybody else, if you have not yet subscribed to Today's Misguided Mentors, please be sure to do that because eventually I'm going to put all of my energy into Today's Misguided Mentors on YouTube, and I'm going to start converting the platform into just doing interviews like a podcast should be, in my opinion. So at least the most entertaining podcasts that I listen to and enjoy are the ones where there's just a good conversation going on between a couple individuals. So that's where the podcast is headed. And I just want to remind you guys to make sure you get on the train. Make sure you subscribe to Today's Misguided Mentors on YouTube. Not only that, I'll be able to see your actual comments because I'm not going to be able to actually look at Instagram while I'm live streaming. And so eventually I'll only be able to put my focus on YouTube. So I'm just kind of doing this just to kind of get people to jump over to YouTube and get the focus in the area that I want to spend the most time on. So let's jump right into this. All right, let me share my screen. Let me share this screen. I'm actually excited about this. I mean, I'm not excited to read about someone's, being a fraudster, but I'm excited to share this and bring this topic kind of to the forefront of what should be an obvious question people should ask themselves, especially if you're getting involved with Grant Cardone or anything related to the 10X organization. Like, you should pay attention to this. You know what I mean? Like, the guy's glorifying and worshiping a fraudster. So let's pay attention to that. Let's see what kind of information we can pull up or dig up, I like to say. All right, let's see here. Oh, that is why that is not working. Here we go. Scientology, Ron Hubbard. Okay, let's check this out together here. All right, so, and again, I've not really read a lot of this. This is all real-time, research that we're doing together. I thought it'd be really cool. Some people like to do a lot of research and get all that stuff prepared ahead of time. Sometimes I do, but in cases like this, I like you guys to kind of hear my thoughts in real time and get a genuine reaction, get an authentic response out of me discovering this stuff real time. And I like to do it with you guys. So let's take a deep dive into this right now. I'm not reading all of this. This is talking about his childhood and all that. Not interested in that. What I am interested in is when it gets down to the founding of Scientology. So in 1953, the first churches of Scientology were founded by Hubbard. In 1954, a Scientology church in Los Angeles was founded, which became the Church of Scientology International. Hubbard added organizational management strategies, principles of pedagogia, I hope I pronounced that right, a theory of communication and prevention strategies for healthy living, and the teachings of Scientology. As Scientology came under increasing media attention and legal pressure in a number of countries during the 1960s and 70s, Hubbard spent much of his time at sea as a commodore of the Sea Organization, a private quasi-paramilitary Scientologist fleet. So I guess that's where the Sea Org definition came from, and now I understand the term when people are talking about the Sea Org. I'm guessing that has to do with them being at sea or some relation to that. Hubbard returned to the United States in 1975 and went into seclusion in the California desert after an unsuccessful attempt to take over the town of Clearwater, Florida. I want you guys to pay attention to this. I find it interesting that a lot of this man's years were spent in seclusion, running, hiding, avoiding law, avoiding justice, avoiding his sentencing, and really just living like a dude in the shadows. Like, why? That's a red flag in itself. So just pay attention to that. I have heard this before, and what little research I have done, I hear this quite a bit, how he's just spent a lot of his time in seclusion. So that's just really weird for someone who created something so something that he claims is life transforming and something positive. All right, so here we go. In 1978, this is the most important part for you guys to pay attention to. In 1978, Hubbard was convicted of fraud as he was tried in absentia by France. In the same year, 11 high-ranking members of Scientology were indicted on 28 charges for their role in the church's Snow White program, a systematic program of espionage against the United States government. One of the indicted was Hubbard's wife, Mary Sue Hubbard. He himself was named an unindicted co-conspirator. Hubbard spent the remaining years of his life in seclusion, attended to by a small group of Scientology officials. That's pretty crazy, man. So let's read this last little paragraph here. Following his death, Scientology leaders announced that Hubbard's body had become an impediment to his work and that he had decided to drop his body to continue his research on another plane of existence. Oh my God. That's pretty funny. The Church of Scientology describes Hubbard in, wow, I cannot pronounce that, hagiographic terms, though many of his autobiographical autobiographical, there we go, statements were fictitious. Many of his autobiographical statements were fictitious. Scientologist Stephen Kent was observed that Hubbard likely presented a personality disorder known as malignant narcissism. Interesting. That's interesting. It's not bad enough that it's narcissism, but it's malignant narcissism. It's almost like being obese. It's not, it's like you got someone who's obese and then you got morbidly obese, and it's like, man, that sounds dark. That sounds way worse than just being obese. Malignant narcissism, it just sounds very scary, to be honest. All right, so let's talk about that really quick. Let me pop back over here. Get the window capture off there. Whoops. Definitely hide that. We'll get that going. Okay. So you guys heard it. You heard it from me in the article. I've read a couple. I was kind of just sifting around to see what would be more credible. I thought Wikipedia would be the best source, the best resource to kind of vouch for or kind of get a little more information in regards to Ron Hubbard's conviction in France. But yeah, he was convicted of fraud. So now we know that. Ron Hubbard was convicted of fraud. Ron Hubbard is essentially Grant Cardone's mentor, although he probably never got to speak to Ron Hubbard, and I think he joined Scientology after Ron Hubbard died. However, as Ron Hubbard mentioned, his presence continues on another plane of existence. So he continues to impact people. And so it's important to note that he lives on. And it's actually very apparent that that's true, actually, with guys like David Mascovich and everybody else who's running the organization. Without him being alive, I don't know how this man was able to convince people of a science fiction story and making them really believe. You know what I think, now that I think about this? This is why I like doing these live streams, because all these thoughts come to me in real time. I think the fact that he likes to prey on people's spirituality, the need for answers, the need for guidance, through this unknowing that some people experience, that's what he preys on. And so I think that is where Scientology is most successful, is they're able to actually provide hope and, a glimmer of hope and what you're meant to do, what you're supposed to do. The only problem with that is, I talked about this on the last podcast, I'm all about spirituality. I'm all about energy. And I talked about this the other day, intuition and your conscience to do what's right. However, Scientology is taking that good and using it for evil. And they're taking that hope and using it for their agenda, which is to make money, to control people's mind. It's not just about the money. Like, if it was just about the money, that'd be easy for people to, have a bad experience and move on. And then everybody talks about it. They get a bad review and so on and so forth. But unfortunately, it goes deeper than that. And they're very good at applying NLP tactics to get people brainwashed in perpetuity. Therefore, not only are they getting people's money when they're brainwashed, they're getting people to recruit for them, promote for them, speak highly of Scientology. So there's a lot that they gain from actually manipulating somebody and brainwashing them to believe that Scientology is positive and is changing lives and the solution for some of these questions that a lot of us have, and when in regards to spirituality and things like that. Because when I originally started reading about what is Scientology, when the description of it is really cool, and it's like, oh, that's actually really fascinating. But then you take a deeper dive and you start hearing about the vulnerability tactics and the deception and the manipulation and the pressure, all the stuff that I broke down on the last podcast. It's like, okay, I can see how they took something that was supposed to be great and positive, and they put an evil spin on it, and it's designed to serve their agenda. But regardless of that, I want people to understand, if you are a, whatever, fanatic of Grant Cardone, you love 10X, all that stuff. You're out here, oh, 10X, 10X this, 10X that, love Grant Cardone. The guy is learning from a fraudster. The guy is learning from someone who's convicted of fraud, okay? Something to note, something to pay attention to. You know, I wonder what Grant Cardone would say to that. You know, obviously, now that I put this podcast out, someone else might talk about this as well, or this might end up coming to his attention at some point. I do know, as much as Grant Cardone and the organization acts like, you know, oh, haters are going to hate, we don't pay attention to them, get yourself some more haters. They actually know who I am. And I've gotten some validation from a lot of 10X, former 10X business associates, that they've been pressured by them to not associate with me, which is very, very weird. And then when I started learning more about Scientology, it was clear to me that, like, oh, they've pretty much labeled me a suppressive person, as they call it. So I guess I'm that. I'm a suppressive person. Technically speaking, I don't think I am. Which, by the way, if anybody has any information on how to actually be a official suppressive person to the Scientology organization, I'd love to do that. I'd love to officially be a suppressive person. It's all bullshit, though. It's just a label. It's not real. It's just a way for people to never have to confront the things like, oh, Ron Hubbard was a fraudster. Yeah, and the response to that is, he's just being suppressive. He's just being negative. Yeah, it's all. Don't worry about that. Yeah, it's all bullshit. Like, no one could ever have a genuine conversation about that. And I wonder what Grant Cardone would actually say if someone said, did you know that Ron Hubbard was convicted of fraud? Like, not accused, not alleged. Like, he was convicted, dude. What do you think Grant Cardone would say? Like, honestly, like, maybe type that in the comments. What do you think Grant Cardone would say if someone asked him, did you know that your mentor was convicted of fraud? Of course he knows. But what is he going to say? He's going to deflect it. Grant Cardone is the master at deflection. That guy he's mastered the art of never having to have a conversation about things that he's uncomfortable with. Matter of fact, if you watch some interviews with him, when someone brings up Scientology or starts talking about Xenu, or something like that, or starts talking about Ron Hubbard being a fraudster, he'll probably start scratching his neck and start, fidgeting himself like he always does when he gets nervous. There's all these body signals and mannerisms that he does that clearly indicate to me, like, this man is uncomfortable talking about this right now, and is very nervous and doesn't want to talk about this. But yeah, I'd like to know in the comments, when you guys get a chance, what do you think Grant Cardone would say if I was to ask him, hey, Grant, I don't know if you know this, but did you know Ron Hubbard was convicted of fraud? Either way, like I said before, if you're a person that likes Grant, if you're about to go to the 10X Growth Conference, this is important information for you to know, because I want you to, even if what I say doesn't change your mind, okay, cool, whatever. But I want you to go into this, if you already committed first and you're figuring out the rest later, as Grant says, pay attention. Take note of the things that I talk about and the things I bring awareness to when I'm talking about deception, manipulation, harassment, interrogation, shaming, bullying, all that shit. And amongst all the other things I talk about. If you're not sure, go back, watch some of my videos. I talk a lot about the same stuff to be aware of, especially when you're navigating the self-development matrix, as I call it. And I guarantee you some red lights are going to start appearing. The light bulb is going to start going off, and I guarantee you're going to have at least one moment, unless you're completely oblivious. There's at least going to be one moment where something I said is going to make sense, and it's going to be relevant to the scenario you're in. You're going to be like, holy shit, I think this is what Ben was talking about. This is one of the things he mentioned that could be happening. I promise you. So if you're a person that is just going to go into it, you're going to go to the next 10X Growth Conference, pay attention to that stuff. Be careful, protect your energy, and just remember, like I said, Grant Cardone is learning from a fraudster. So pay attention to that, because that organization is directly mimicked. It's a carbon copy of Scientology. All he did was repackage it and put 10X on it. 10x is repackaged Scientology practice. That's it. And I can vouch for that because of my experience as a 10x business coach with Grant Cardone's organization. I'm not talking about this as a spectator. I was a participant in the game, unfortunately, and I had to find out the hard way. And I didn't know what Scientology was until I left. But now that I'm getting educated, I'm wide awake on that, and I'm starting to see some things that people are not. And one of those most obvious things that I see is that Grant Cardone's mentor is a fraud. It's simple as that. Pay attention, all right? You're okay with that? Then all right. Like, what if I told you, whoever, name whoever you like. Let's say you like Tony Robbins. Let's say you like Joel Osteen. Is that his name? Let's say you like, Andy Elliott, Wes Watson, John Maxwell, some of these people who seemingly have a good heart. Let's say TD Jakes. What if I told you that, and we found out that these people, whoever they were looking up to, whoever was their mentor, was convicted of fraud? Shouldn't that raise some eyebrows? It better. If not, then you can continue to navigate this world oblivious and turn a blind eye to those things, because if you're not going to pay attention to stuff like that, you're not going to be willing to pay attention to anything else. And I wish you the best. I pray for you, but I would highly suggest that you wake up and have an open mind. I'm not saying you're not awake. I'm just saying I'm trying to encourage people, like, pay attention, like hard attention. Wake up and pay close attention. All right. And when we're talking about paying attention, you should pay very close attention. So if you're a person that watches this and you are going to the 10X Growth Conference, and now you heard me say that Ron Hubbard, Grant Cardone's mentor, was a fraud, pay close attention to that organization. I promise you're going to see some stuff that just feels weird. If it feels weird, don't ignore it. If it feels good, then lean into it. But I'm telling you, if it feels bad, do not ignore it, because you're going to be doing your intuition and your spiritual, yourself injustice. So that was the main thing I wanted to say. Hey guys, if you're on Instagram, be sure to jump over to the YouTube channel, Today's Misguided Mentors. Would love to get everybody converted over there so that, I'm going to put all my attention into YouTube eventually. And I'm going to stop the live streaming on Instagram. And I'm going to be converting the podcast into doing interviews pretty soon. So very excited about that. Very excited to bring some really cool individuals to the stage and have great conversations, and bring awareness to today's misguided mentors, and also give some good pointers and guidance to people on how to navigate the self-development space, the self-help gurus and all that stuff. So appreciate you guys' support. So what's up, Lizette? You were saying a big wake-up call is John Maxwell also doubting Bob Proctor, who I followed for years. Did you say doubting? Yeah. So, I can't speak on people I haven't really done research on. Bob Proctor seems like, I don't know how he runs his organization. I know that the few clips and speeches that I've seen of Bob Proctor is like, it sounds like he's on point with a lot of the stuff he's talking about. It sounds like he speaks the truth. The only thing I don't know about him is that, does his actions align with what he encourages and promotes? You know what I mean? Because a lot of these people talk really well. A lot of these people talk about stuff that's positive. A lot of these people talk about stuff that is very uplifting. But it's the actions that come with that, the way they run their organization, the way they sell things, what they sell. All that stuff really determines what type of person they really are, what they're really after, what their agenda is, if they're self-serving, all that stuff. And so I can't really speak on Bob Proctor. I just know that he does use a lot of positive influence. He speaks a lot of truth when it comes to, he talks about things I talk about. And so I hope that he's not the type of individual to do high pressure sales and all that stuff like that, and have people seek him for advice, him for guidance and stuff like that. Because I can tell you right now, if I start digging into somebody and I start getting some testimonies and reviews on people's experience about some of these guys like John Maxwell and Bob Proctor, I'm going to find out really quick if these people are misguided mentors or if they actually care about people. I feel like I can read between the lines. I can watch a live public speaking event with them. And I could just really determine a lot just by reading the energy. And I'm not saying I know it all or I'm perfect, or that I can't be wrong. I've been wrong, obviously. But okay, so they promote MLMs, unfortunately. Okay. I was having this conversation with my girlfriend the other day, and she was, there was a time where she was caught up in, what is that? God, I'm drawing a blank on it. Arbonne. She was in the Arbonne MLM. And me and her got into a conversation, and, she didn't agree with, she didn't like her experience with that. However, she wasn't really in disagreement about MLMs. I thought that was interesting. And I was telling her, and she made me question myself too. I was thinking, because I was telling her, well, MLM is structured in the way that basically you recruit people and then you get paid on the people you recruit, and they encourage you to recruit a bunch more people. And it's more like a downline, a cumulative way of getting revenue. And she didn't seem to think there was a problem with that. And so, and I started thinking about that and questioning myself. And I was like, is there a problem with that? I guess if I have a problem with that, what is the problem? I guess when I'm thinking about it now on a live stream, the problem I have with MLMs is that, maybe because it's encouraging people to just chase the money by recruiting. However, if you're a person who believes, like genuinely believes in the product, genuinely believes that what you're selling is helpful to people, and genuinely believes that, if you are recruiting somebody, that you're giving them an opportunity to actually sell things that are going to change people's lives. And on top of that, you just get a little kickback from them. I don't know. I guess the question is that bad? If so, why is MLM bad? I don't know. That's stuff that I'm trying to actually answer within myself. I personally am not big on MLMs. Very culty vibes. I had an experience with Amway. I went to one of the big like national conventions they have, or conferences that they have for Amway. I got invited to it. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was until I got there. And oh my God, that was the full definition of a cult. It was so weird, very, very weird vibes. But yeah, it's not my thing. Not my thing. MLM's not my thing. But again, I am open to people, like I said, having the conversation with Kira. It got me to think about my own viewpoint about MLMs. And I'm curious, why. Maybe I should ask myself that question more and break it down. Like, what is my problem with MLMs? Do I have a problem with MLMs? Yeah, I don't know. And maybe it's the cult-like atmosphere. I guess that's definitely one thing I don't like about MLMs. So yeah, thank you for sharing that, Lisette. I didn't know that John Maxwell and Bob Proctor, constructed their organization like an MLM. So that's news to me. And like I said, I haven't done enough research on those two individuals. They seem like they're very solid. There's a couple people, that, like Bob Proctor, like John Maxwell, like TD Jakes. They seem like they have a good heart. They seem like they care. They speak a lot of truth, a lot of positivity, a lot of proper upliftment. But again, I don't really know unless I go to an event and maybe, get a feel for how their organization is ran, how they train their team to run the organization, all that stuff. I really don't know until I actually get in there. But I'll start taking a peek. I mean, obviously this channel is based on Misguided Mentors. So, which by the way, I forgot the logo there. Let me get that popped up. That's the name of the name of the podcast is Today's Misguided Mentors. And so the whole purpose is to find out who's today's misguided mentors are and find out if they in fact are that, and kind of vet them and expose them for either the good or bad that they're conducting themselves in. What's up, Lorraine? How you doing? So you were saying MLMs, you don't like the fact that your income is dependent on getting others to sign up. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I wouldn't like that either. But then again, I can see how people are like, if they're convicted within a product, whatever they're selling, like if they're super convicted, they're like, oh my God, this is a game changer. This is going to change your life, whatever it is. I don't know what they're selling. Supplements, makeup, let's say makeup like Arbonne, right? If they're selling that and they're convinced, super convinced and passionate about it, does that make it okay to try to get, does that make it okay? Ethical is the better question. Is it ethical? Because you might not like it. I might not like that. I particularly don't like that as well. But is it ethical is the question I'm trying to figure out within myself. Is getting money through recruiting people on something that is actually helpful in your opinion, truly, without, lying to yourself, is that ethical? That's the question I think I'm trying to decide within myself. So yeah. And then you were also saying there goes the hard sell. If only the product spoke for itself. Yeah, exactly. If again, if the hard sell I'm not down with. Trying to convince somebody of anything, whether it's in sales, trying to, I don't know, even if it's like trying to ask somebody out on a date. I just feel like trying to convince somebody is a very, very low level of energy to operate within. Maybe you guys can give me your opinion on that, but convincing somebody is just a terrible mental space to be in my opinion. And if we're talking about trying to get somebody to buy something from you by convincing them, oh man, it just feels weird. It just feels really weird. I've been making sales lately. I got hooked up with a partnership in an organization where I'm actually a host for a podcast. And, we sell services on the back end of it too, where we truly help companies. We help companies actually, we build out their own podcast for them, and we brand it for them, and we turn them into the host and all that. They don't have to do anything except show up and talk. A lot of people love that, and we also do TV commercials and other marketing solutions and video content related stuff. But, that is something I don't have to sell or push. Like it's such a good energy to be able to just be like, hey, we offer this service, this product. We do this, we do this, we do this. And a lot of people have been loving it. Does this sound like something you'd be interested in? And then they show their interest or they don't. If they don't, I simply say, okay, well, if your marketing budget, a lot of times people say they don't have the budget for it. And, usually when they say that, there is no pressure from me. I literally just tell them, perfect. Well, that's okay. If you guys see that your marketing budget opens up in the future, reach back out to us, and I'd love to get you on a call and show you what we got, what we can do, see if we can help you, see if it aligns. If so, we'll get you hooked up on it and see how we can help you. If not, that's okay too. There's not it's such a good feeling. That's the way sales should be, in my opinion. Now, a lot of people who are out here like Grant Cardone and all these other people like sell, follow up, close, and then some more close. They will never agree with that. Their whole approach is convincing and trying to convince, trying to do the dog and pony show, their whole thing is trying to convince the sales rep that these people you're selling to need help thinking. They need your help to make a decision. And, that's kind of true, but I can elaborate on that a lot more detailed and help that make more sense, because I can see how that's been being twisted up. Let me get caught up here. But Lorraine, you were saying it's the tactics to get people to sign up that is unethical. Usually the upline thing is complicated, and the person at the top of the pyramid is the winner, not you. Yeah, okay, that sounds unethical. You were also saying that, or Lisette, you were saying that Lorraine, you were on Amway. I'm thinking you're trying to say Amway, and that is exactly what it is. Yeah, and I, like I said, I went to an Amway convention. That was super culty, very culty, and I can see how they're all about the upline and the whole pyramid scheme structure. And then Lorraine, you were saying you were actually involved in some MLM products, and most of the people that signed up with you ended up leaving too at some point. Okay, yeah. So yeah, it definitely, again, the unethical part is the tactics. 100%, I agree with that. The whole convincing, the pressure, if so, maybe I'll ask you guys this. Would it be unethical? This stuff I'm just learning about myself, actually, and what people think about MLMs, because I'm not a fan of MLMs either, but I don't know if I'm like completely, I don't know. Like I said, Kira got me thinking about it. She's like, there's nothing wrong with MLMs, and if it's something that really helps people. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess when you put it that way, what is bad about MLMs then? So I guess the question would maybe I got a question for you, Lorraine and Lizette. Like, what if the MLMs weren't like to get someone to recruit somebody? It wasn't a pressure tactic. It was just like, hey, what if it was fully transparent? What if let's say I was in MLM, and let's say I was pitching to somebody and I was telling them like, hey, I'll just be straight up with you. I have this program, I have this product I sell, super game changer. Let's pretend that I believe that and I was passionate about it, and I knew that to be true. And I said, I have this. I would love to get you involved. I'll be straight up with you though. Like, I get paid by the people that I get involved with this. And so I do have incentive to do that. No pressure though. If you want to get involved, that'd be great. If not, that's okay too. Would it be unethical if MLMs were operated like that? Again, that is the question. Because if I was ever to get involved with the MLM, that's probably how I would approach it. And then if they started trying to preach to me that I should pressure them and all that stuff, I'd be like, I'm not down with that. I'm out of here. And but I don't know if any MLMs operate like that. You know what I mean? I think what I just described is like a fairy tale made up scenario of an MLM, which probably, if I'm willing to bet no MLMs actually approach business like that or recruiting like that. So yeah, Lorraine, you were saying your parents were actually involved in Amway and they made very little for a lot of work. I knew some people that were in Amway too. Back in the day when I was such a young kid, my brother-in-law's parents, they had everything in the house was Amway. They literally were buying all the products, and so it seemed kind of wrong because it was almost like they were supporting their own business by buying from themselves, And then Lorraine, you were saying you're making, you thinking about Amway back in the 80s. So your parents were in a cult and did not know it, you either. And the fact that the business model is an MLM, you would question it, like, why? Yeah. That's a good question. If it's structured like an MLM, why? That's a good question. Why is it structured like an ML? Why is it like a pyramid? Why is it in a way that the more people a person recruits, the more money they get? That's a good question. I guess generally speaking, when I think about that, it almost feels like it's just about the money and it's just about the numbers rather than it is helping people. Because if you structure it like that, hey, I'm all about goals, I'm all about hitting achievements and stuff like that. But I think in that regard, it does start to turn into more of a money motivator instead of actually helping people. So I can see where you're coming from when you say that. And then Lizette, you were saying it's definitely a cult, very narcissistic, very narcissist. If you don't do as they said, it's all your fault. Yeah, that I'm not down with that. That's a cult, 100%. That's Scientology stuff right there, and a lot of cults do that as well. It's funny how relevant self-development organizations, like whatever sales teams, whether you're working for Grant, Tony Robbins, whatever, Wes Watson, Scientology, all that stuff. There's a lot of victim shaming is what's going on, is what we call it. And I've noticed that quite a bit. And if you haven't heard the whole story about me talking about how my former 10X colleague was telling me about how she heard Elena Cardone basically tell a woman in a room full of like a couple hundred people that it was her fault she got raped. That's pretty wild. That's how far the victim shaming goes. And that's pretty sick. That's pretty sick, actually. If I was in that room, I would have said something, particularly because, that happened to my sister. And, she's passed away now, and she had a hard life. And that was one of the reasons that contributed to that, was because she had a hard time getting over that experience. And I don't take that conversation lightly. So when I heard that, I was like, that's terrible to victim shame someone on something traumatic like that. But yeah, that's what it is too. Even on a lighter note, it's always about like for instance, if I bought a $40,000 program, which I did, from Grant Cardone or Brandon Dawson or someone in the 10X, and then I tell them, yeah, that didn't work, dude. Like, that was a bunch of bullshit. It was a waste of time. I'm already doing that stuff. A way of them making it my fault is they would say, hey, you just didn't apply yourself. The stuff is there. Everything you need is right there. Like, the answers are all there. We pretty much gave you the playbook, the whole how-to. And if it didn't work, it's because you didn't actually apply it. And that goes back to that whole, it's your fault. It's such a way to deflect accountability. I absolutely hate that. And that is pretty much a cult tactic, to sit there and tell somebody it's their fault. It didn't work out because they didn't apply themselves. They didn't do that. You notice most times when people start saying that, whether it's an organization or an actual coach or a mentor themselves, you'll find that they never hold themselves accountable for a lot of things. And it's just a way to deflect. It's just a way to never have to step up, which is also ironic because the same people preach a lot of accountability, yet they never hold themselves accountable. Instead, they like to blame it on you, and they like to say, yeah, you didn't hold yourself accountable. We gave you everything you needed. It was all there. You just didn't use it. And so it's such a cop-out. But yeah, Kat, you were saying you were introduced to an MLM through the Mormons. Interesting. That's another, religious cults are a whole nother type of cults, which I haven't really gotten into yet, but a cult is a cult is a cult, right? Lizette, you were saying Amway would show Grant Cardone videos. Really interesting. And Robert Kiyosaki and John Maxwell. I did not know that. However, I just finally recently discovered that Robert Kiyosaki actually got his big break with Rich Dad Poor Dad through Amway. Amway actually promoted a lot of his main sales came from Amway, and then they showed a clip with him doing a speech at an Amway conference. And but I did not know that Amway promotes Grant Cardone videos and Robert and John Maxwell videos too. Very interesting. What's up, Michelle? How you doing? Thanks for popping in here, and thank you so much for the kind comment. I appreciate that. Hopefully you've been well. And I got to tell you, if you have not subscribed to my YouTube podcast channel, please do that. I would love your support. You've always been a really good friend of mine, and I always wish you the best. But do that at some point. Go to YouTube, type in today's Misguided Mentors, and subscribe, because I'm going to have some really cool conversations with people and doing some live interviews and some live streaming. So hopefully I'll see you there. So that just blew me away that you just said that. And then Lorraine, you were saying because many people at the bottom benefit from those at the top. benefit those at the top. Oh, I see what you're saying. They don't benefit from those at the top. They benefit those at the top. Gotcha. Let's see. That is next level. Comment about Robert is next level. Yeah. Lorraine, the MLMs are designed for the CEO and those just under them to make the most money. You joined those things, and being the one at the bottom, your income was very small, but you were given incentives to recruit. Okay. Yeah, so it sounds like, again, I'm coming to my own conclusion in real time, live. Like, am I okay with MLMs? Well, I think my answer is no. Mainly because, and I guess let me elaborate. It's not the MLM structure itself. It's more about the tactics being applied to do that and the incentive to get bodies under you for you to make more money. That specifically I'm not okay with. And that specifically feels off to me and feels very, I don't know. It's just not, it doesn't sound like it's structured in a way to actually help people or care for people in the right ways. And so I guess the answer is no, I'm not cool with MLMs. But I'm interested, I'm open to hearing others' opinion about MLMs, and I'm not like, hard set in my ways. If there's something else, I don't know, because for a second there I was thinking I couldn't really understand why I didn't really like MLMs, and so I had to sit here and talk it out with you guys, try to figure out the nuts and bolts of MLMs, what it is, how they operate, and ask myself, am I okay with that or am I not? And I guess the short answer is nah, I'm not okay with MLMs. And then, so yeah, Lorraine, you were saying without the MLM model, there would be no tactics. So it really is the model, in your opinion. Okay, good point. And that actually makes sense. You're right. Let me repeat that, because I think that's actually a powerful statement. You said without the MLM model, there would be no tactics. So it really is the model. Okay. Now that makes more sense. And it's funny you said that, because it kind of reminds me of the way I just described how, I sell the marketing services and the podcast and the TV commercial that our company and the partnership I got going on with my business partner, like how I sell. And the way I sell is like no pressure at all. This is like, hey, we do this. Does this sound like it's something that may interest you? If not, no big deal. If so, love to get you on another call. We'll show you what you got and see if it aligns with you. It is really just no pressure. So it reminds me of that, because the way I've structured it within myself and the agreement that I have with my business partner, and letting him know that, like, dude, I don't operate that way, man. Like you're going to have to trust me in the way I do things. I care about people. I went through some bad, fucked up mentorship. Some self-serving entrepreneurs out here deceived me and tried to teach me how to manipulate people. I had to deconstruct from all that. And I'm getting back to who I used to be, and that's caring about people. And so I don't use deception to do that, just so you know. And so he understood that, and he sounds like a very honest dude. And so it's been a breath of fresh air to model that, to be myself in a sales process, because it's not sales. I've said this before. It's not sales. It's not coaching. It's not mentorship that's inherently bad. It's the people. It's the pressure. It's the tactics we're talking about. And so if it requires tactics to convince and deceive somebody into doing something, that's where it gets really unethical, and the morals are being played with. So yeah, I had another thought and I completely lost it now. It was super important, but anyways, I appreciate you, Lorraine and Lisette and Kat. You guys are, you help me realize, my own conviction in things, and help me open my thoughts to this particular topic when we're talking about MLMs. But yeah. The way you sell is very different to most. Did you arrive at that due to your own experience? So that's a good question. Yes, part of the contribution. So I actually was that way already. When I started my construction company for the first couple years, I didn't do that. There was no pressure involved. I only started applying pressure tactics because I learned it. I learned it from guys like Dan Locke. Oh God, what is that guy? Orrin Claff. Dan Pena, Grant Cardone. There's certain individuals that I started learning that from. That was not in my character to treat people that way. And so I went from that looking for more opportunities to grow the company. And in doing that, I saw outside myself, and that's where I messed up. I didn't tap into my own intuition. I didn't rely on my spirituality. I didn't rely on, I didn't believe in God at that time, ironically. And so there was a lot of things that played into that. However, like I said, before I started receiving the bad mentorship from people, I cared about people. So I had that going on, and I knew what felt right and I knew what felt wrong. I just unfortunately took the temptations like a lot of these young entrepreneurs out here. The money, the ego, the self-pride, the status, all that stuff was attracting to me. And then I would see people like Grant Cardone out here on the internet on some ads, being all flashy, and it was attractive to me. And so I took the bait, took the temptation, ended up getting more deceived. And the more temptation I took, the more blinded I got. And not only was I blinded to deception, but I was blinded to myself. I was blinded to my own conscience to do what is right, if that makes sense. And so I got away from that. And then after I had my awakening, I decided to leave Grant Cardone's organization, and I got back to who I was. And I jumped on and started making public posts saying, hey, I'm sorry if I deceived you into buying something from me that you didn't. If I made you buy something that you didn't want to, I'm sorry. And reach out to me for a refund, because I'm giving out thousands of dollars away in refunds right now. And so I 180'd, and I made it a point to let people know that. And I tried to let people know I was holding myself accountable, and pretty much had to rebrand and restructure and start from scratch, or not even start from scratch, go back to who I was, even stronger though. And so to answer your question, Lorraine, that's the experience made my positive and ethical and moral part of me, and those characteristics about myself, it accentuated those, and it got me back to that even more powerful in a good way. And I was just more aware of things. So that's why I sell that way now. It's just because I went through that experience and I see what's going on firsthand. I seen it. And so I was like, oh my God, I don't ever want to be that. I don't ever want to create that type of experience or that type of energy within an interaction that I have with somebody. I just want it to be, natural. I want it to be natural. I want it to be no pressure, authentic. A lot of these people out here talk about authentic. I can't tell you how many times I've spoken at an event or went to a public speaking event. People are talking about authenticity. They're not even authentic. I can feel it. People talk about accountability. They're not accountable. People talk about this, talk about that. There's a lot of misguided mentors who talk a lot about things they don't even do themselves. They promote things they don't even do themselves. They encourage you to do things they don't do themselves. It's as I've said this before, it's this do as I say, not as I do mentality that I've noticed. And I'm onto this shit. So it's very obvious to me, and I'll call it out when I see it, and I'm encouraging people to wake up to that stuff. So, but thanks, Lisette. You were saying that's awesome. And a real me would do that. I love that. Kat, you were saying off subject, was what 10X around when you were involved with Grant, or the 10X Hub? Was that around? No. 10X Hub was something that came later on down the road. I started hearing about it, but it wasn't actually officially launched when I was with the organization. And absolutely, Lorraine, I'm happy to explain my metamorphosis. I love that you called it that, by the way, and being the seller that I am today. And yeah, it's important for me to talk about that journey, because there was, how do I put this? I couldn't really see the light for what it was without going through that darkness. That's the best way I can explain it. Does that mean that everybody has to go through the darkness to see the light? Not necessarily, but the better way for me to explain it is that I couldn't see that light for what it was. Maybe I've seen it before, but I just couldn't see it. You know what I mean? I didn't understand it. I could not embody it without being put through the darkness and going through that terrible experience. And so I'm actually grateful for that. And I'm grateful to be able to turn that into something. More specifically, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful to be able to turn something that it would be a terrible experience for most people, which is, and utilize that to uplift people in the right way, utilize that to encourage people to pay attention, utilize people to operate their lives that way and their businesses that way. Instead of doing what a lot of people do. And I'm not shaming anybody, but usually what happens is someone is scared to talk about it, or they're ashamed, embarrassed, or they just want to forget. It's just a bad experience. They don't want to keep reliving it. So like, you know what, I'm just going to brush this under the rug. It was lesson learned. I didn't want to be that. I didn't want to do that. I just seen an opportunity to talk. I seen an opportunity to help. And that's why I really, really grasped, like the direction I wanted to go and what I consider to be a David versus Goliath, person in the self-development space. And I've had some crazy visions too. There's a time where I'm going to have a spirituality podcast where I'll just talk more about spirituality, and I'll talk about my own, as you put it, metamorphosis. Because it truly is a fascinating story, and I like talking about that. And so I want to encourage other people to operate within that as well. Lisette, you were saying a real person mentor would do that. We parents are mentors to our children, and it's important to be authentic. 100%, absolutely. Being authentic is a superpower, and it's so easy, to be authentic. Especially if you don't care what people think about you. I always have this saying now. It's I don't care what you think about me, but I care about people. And I say that last part because sometimes me saying I don't care what you think about me can sound aggressive and come off-putting to somebody. But I care about people, but that doesn't mean I have to care what you think about me. Like I show up the best person I can be, and I always try to be a better person. And so I'm not here to try to, like, again, it's that whole convincing energy. If I care about what a person thinks about me, here I go operating within that low level of convincing somebody. And I just don't do that. I'm open to being better. I'm open to learning about things that I can do better. I'm open to learning about my faults, things that, I'm not happy about myself. But that doesn't mean I have to pander to people or do things in order to be liked. I'm not after people to like me. I feel like, generally I am a likable person, and I feel like I have a good energy about me, just by my experience with interacting with people. I feel like, I can talk to a lot of people very easily. I feel like I have a welcoming energy, so I don't need to convince anybody of anything. It's just my natural characteristics. So I just kind of stick to myself, and my authentic self, as you put it, Lisette. But yeah, Lorraine, absolutely. You were saying it was in my destiny to go through what I did and to be here now, sharing my experience with others and doing good. 100%. And again, that's why I brought up the spirituality podcast that I'm going to do later, because I'm going to share with you some visions I had and share with you some stories that are just crazy out of this world, where some people might listen to it and think I'm fucking nuts. They're going to be like, yeah, right, man, that did not happen. But I promise you, I don't lie about that stuff. And I've been hesitant to really publicly talk about some of these things because, I don't want people to think I'm completely nuts. But I am confident about sharing these things, and you guys can decide for yourself. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not here to, again, I'm not here to convince you that it happened or it didn't happen. I'm just sharing with you my experience. But yeah, I can't wait to talk about that a little bit because the whole David and Goliath reference I made was actually one of my visions. So very cool. And again, very thankful for that. Keep your eyes peeled, Lorraine. I'm definitely going to have the spiritual talk. I love talking about that stuff, by the way. Energy, spirituality, all that stuff. I'm just into it, especially now. I never was before, by the way. Thanks, Lorraine. I'm nuts. Yeah, don't worry. I'm in good company. Yeah, and again, the people that support me. So I really appreciate that. And the other thing is like there, not everybody's gonna like everything about me either. It's just unrealistic to think that like, oh, I like everything about this person. So that's okay. You know what I mean? There might even be things that I say that people disagree with. And I welcome that, I think we live in a day and age where people have a hard time having conversations with people that they disagree with. And this whole, it's confirmation bias. Like they can't really bring themselves to have a productive conversation unless they're hearing something that they want to hear. And that's very immature. This is a very, very immature way of living life. And it really upsets me to see that. But going back to, I love how this stream started out as me talking about how Grant Cardone's mentor is a convicted fraud to now talking about this. But no, to the point, let me bring this back home. This is how I learned to, I guess I'm getting better at having these type of conversations because I'm going to bring it back home right now. So to my point about why I think it's important for people to pay attention to who an individual is learning from, particularly leaders like Grant Cardone. Who is he learning from? Well, he was learning from Ron Hubbard. Grant Cardone was my mentor for several years. So I was learning from someone who learned from someone who was a convicted fraud. You see what I'm saying here? It's all a cycle. So the reason Grant Cardone was teaching me how to deceive, how to manipulate, how to shame, how to interrogate, how to harass people into doing business was because he learned those practices from Ron Hubbard's teachings. Ron Hubbard's teachings is a result of, the same teachings that he used in the case that he was convicted of fraud in. Matter of fact, I don't think I even read that. God, how did I... Okay, I didn't read this part. Let me bring this back. In 1978, Ron Hubbard was convicted by the French court for obtaining money under false pretenses. He was fined and sentenced to 4 years in prison on August 18th, 1978. And then Hubbard collapsed while filming in the desert, which I think he ended up running again from that sentence. He never did serve the sentence because I think he started running again. But did you hear what I said there? He was convicted of fraud in the French court because he was accused of or he wasn't accused. He was convicted of obtaining money under false pretenses. And there's more about it. I can't remember where I seen it, but basically, making false claims. Okay, so the conviction was for making false claims that his methods could cure illness. What a crazy, outrageous claim that I don't know. Maybe he's onto something. Even if what he was actually teaching, he was using it for bad. Let's put it that way. All right. So I just wanted you guys to pay attention to that. Grant Cardone learned from Ron Hubbard. Ron Hubbard is a convicted fraud. And then I ended up learning from Grant Cardone for several years, which is why I started deceiving people and manipulating people into doing that. It's just a cycle. So if I'm just one person and I'm the only one talking about it, how many more people do you think there are that have learned from Grant Cardone and operating their business like Ron Hubbard, who is a convicted fraudster. That's pretty wild. That is actually pretty wild. And this is actually why sales in the business space gets a bad rap. This is why sales is looked at as slimy, distrusting. It's because of organizations and people like Grant Cardone and Ron Hubbard that have shaped that narrative, And like I said, it's not sales that's bad. Businesses need to sell, right? It's what you're selling and how you're selling it, and the ethics behind it, or lack of behind it. What's up, Nelly? How you doing? Yeah, Ron Hubbard should have been a sci-fi writer. I hope that's a joke because, in case you didn't know, I'm guessing you know this, but Ron Hubbard actually is a sci-fi writer. He was a science fiction writer before before he founded Scientology, which is quite remarkable. So I don't think it's a shock that Scientology sounds like a science fiction story. And then you were also saying, Nelly, that the Scientology stuff is pretty crazy when you look into what they actually believe in. Yeah, 100%. There'll be a time, I've kind of brushed on it here and there. There'll be a time where I break that down too. We'll talk about Xenu. We'll talk about the Thetans and the Thetans or whatever being dropped into the volcanoes and capsules floating around, sticking to bodies. And it's a crazy story. And again, I'm not here to make fun of people's religion. It's not even a religion, though. Let's put it that way. It was only a religion because they're trying to avoid taxes, and which is why Grant always talks bad about the IRS. So, yeah, Kat, you were saying your awakening makes you sound nuts too, and hard to explain to people because, but those who have gone through it understand. And that's why it's great to connect. Yeah, 100%. People who've had like a massive spiritual awakening, something very intense where they've gotten a very inner connection with something or some, a higher power of some sort, whatever that may be for you. For me, it's God. And again, I got to say this every time I bring up God. I don't want people to think I'm in a religious cult now, but I don't identify with any religion. I just have a relationship with God. That's it. I don't go to church. I've never read the Bible yet. There'll be a time where maybe I'm called to do that, and I'll be able to discern the truth and any deception that comes before me. So, but yeah, it's a great conversation to have, and the people that get it, and the ones that can relate, it makes for a beautiful connection, and real recognizes real, as they say. So it's always fun to have those connections and talk with people about the particular topic of what we're talking about. So anyways, I think it's getting pretty late. It's over an hour now, so I'm going to jump off here. The last thing I'm going to say about this is if you are gung-ho about Grant Cardone, you love you some Grant Cardone as much as he loves himself, and you like 10x growth, you're going to the 10x growth conference, you're buying whatever, you're going to a boot camp, you're buying all his courses, you're training on Cardone University. I'm just telling you right now, the guy learned from somebody who is a convicted fraudster. Okay, not an alleged fraudster. This guy was convicted. All right. So if that person was convicted of fraud, and here Grant Cardone is learning from this person and this person's teachings, what do you think that makes him? All right. It's at least something to take note of. It's something to pay attention to. And I'm telling you, if you get involved with Grant Cardone, be very, very, very careful. All right. Protect your energy. Be grounded. Stay true to yourself. Do not ignore red flags. And, just be aware. I'm not saying don't live scared. I'm just saying be aware. All right. All right, I'm going to read you guys' last comments and then pop off here. Lisette, you were saying you feel the same about God. You don't read the Bible, etc., but you believe in a higher power. Very cool, very cool. I've never heard anybody say that like I've said it before, so very cool. And then you were saying, Lorraine, you're saying to your knowledge in Scientology, they get you to tell them your darkest secrets so you don't leave. Yes. and they have something on you. People are stuck there like Tom Cruise and John Travolta. Yeah, that's so weird. That's a red flag, obviously. I just talked about red flags. And so when someone's trying to get you to reveal like, oh God, something that just, it's not fun to talk about, or it's not even that, something that may be damning to your reputation. They want to know like your darkest secrets, something that you're just completely embarrassed about or ashamed of. And they're trying to convince you that that's the way to start. Like, you got to tell us that stuff so that we, you got to start the healing somewhere in order for you to be successful in life. You got to start here. So you're going to have to start by telling us all this stuff. Yeah, that's deception at its ultimate right there. And I've heard about that story where people, they reveal all this stuff and then it just gets used on them right after that. It's just something being held above their head at all times. And then, when the very few cases where people do wake up and they leave Scientology, they start talking. And then the next thing you know, Scientology uses their confidential stuff against them and say, and they're like, oh, it says right here, well, I mean, you shouldn't believe her, what she's saying about her experience with us, with Scientology, because, this woman is this woman is that. I mean, look at her stories she shared with us. She's done this. She's done that. She's that. Like, that's all that's used for is for their agenda. So, yeah, it's terrible when I heard that. Very, very crazy. So, but anyways, just wanted to leave you guys with that last thought. Pay attention. If you like Grant Cardone, pay attention. All right. That's all I'm going to say. There's a lot of people who have seen some posts I've made and some videos I've made, and something I said clicked with them, something I said resonated with them, and it stopped them from actually doing business with Grant Cardone. So I'm really hoping, these videos continue to do that. All right, I'm trying to help you. So, it's okay if you don't listen to me, but if you do go to the growth conference, you do train on Cardone University, you go to boot camp or whatever, pay very close attention. Don't let your ego get to you. Don't act like you know it all. Don't act like you can't be deceived. Just pay attention is all I'm saying, all right? You're going to do yourself a justice by opening the eyes a little bit more, and more specifically, opening your soul to the energy, all right? Don't overcomplicate this. If it feels wrong, it's wrong. If it feels right, start leaning into that a little bit more. So anyways, very good to chat with you. Take care, you guys. Hopefully someone got something out of this. And it's been good chatting with you guys. Thanks, Lorraine, Lisette, Kat. I think Nelly was her name. I don't know. I can't see the comments anymore, so I'm sorry. But anyways, real good chatting with you guys. Thanks for the engagement. I will chat with you later. Have a good rest of your evening, and take care, all right?